My name is Paul Handley. I'm the editor of the Church Times, and we are reflecting on a few of the things that took place in 2019. I'm here with just two of my vast news team, Madeleine and Madam Davies and Adam Becket. So I was just wondering whether there's any of the positive things or quirky things that you recall.
I think this year's been yet another year where talking about mental health has come into focus as an important thing, and I think it was really interesting to hear the Archbishop of Canterbury talk about his reliance on antidepressants and his own struggles with mental health. For many people, things like that from public figures, especially faith leaders, kind of allows themselves to feel okay about their mental health and kind of understand that it's okay and that this isn't something that they should be ashamed about, obviously. I had the pleasure of attending the Mental Health Summit, which was quite enlightening in some ways, and certainly for the people there, I think it
But you
went
didn't
really
get
well.
to meet the main guest, I think, is that?
No,
right?
I didn't get to meet Prince Harry.
Right.
Was sent away before then. That was done behind closed doors.
Oh well. But he did meet some of the real people, not.
Oh yeah,
Not the
absolutely,
reporters,
absolutely.
that's right, yeah.
The people that will take what was being said at the conference back to their own churches and implement it and try and make this kind of make mental health a real thing for most people.
Sure. Good.
I was thinking of a lot of chatter over the summer about what happens in cathedrals, and I suppose there was sort of a light-hearted element to it, and then quite a lot of debate about what cathedrals are for and what's appropriate to have in them.
When you say debate, what you mean is criticism.
Angry people.
But I think the door has been opened, hasn't it? I think this coming summer we're going to see more of that, almost without a doubt.
And I think it was sort of on the back of the cathedrals measure, and I think it was interesting that we had people emphasising that cathedrals and deans must be independent and we can't have bishops controlling them. But then when those cathedrals decide to do something that people don't like, then suddenly there's a conversation about maybe how independent they should be or what people's views are on the decisions that they take when they do have their autonomy. So I thought that was quite interesting.
People feel very loyal about their cathedrals, and I think as their popularity grows, as is shown in kind of visitor figures and the popularity of Coral Even's song.
More figures saying that attendance is up again.
Well, exactly, and Coral Even's song being one of the most popular things that the Church of England does at cathedrals.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of reassuring in a way for the church that people really think they matter, and they continue to matter. And I think that's why so many people got so vitriolic about it, because these spaces really matter to them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And talking of conversation points, I mean the climate rebellion protests in London as well. There was a very prominent Christian element in those, and I particularly remember the Faith Bridge, which was a fantastic idea, and they advertised it in advance, and they managed to establish a bridgehead, I suppose. It only lasted for a few hours, but nonetheless, it was a significant part of the protests, and too much was made of the priest who climbed on top of the tube train. I think this just gave the those who were opposed to the protests chance to kick out at it. But nonetheless, I think there was a very strong Christian element. It was a sign that the church is waking up and taking control of these areas, I think. Other stuff. Any thoughts?
I think this year was also notable for the release of Bibi being acquitted, and then the search to find a new home for her and her family. That's something that by the time I joined, I think almost 8 years ago, she'd already I think been convicted, and so there would be kind of periodical stories that we would do in the news section about court hearings that were almost always postponed and campaigns, and so it was in a way, a really good news story that she was finally acquitted. But I'm currently working on a story where I'll be talking to her lawyer and also to a British barrister who's very involved in the Pakistani legal context about other people who are in the same situation as her, and the way in which religious minorities in Pakistan continue to face persecution and the misuse really of blasphemy laws, and whether those can ever be overturned given the power that sort of religious figures have in Pakistan and how difficult it is for politicians to take them on. So I think even though it was a good news story, we have to sort of remember she's not typical. Perhaps there are other people who are in the same situation.
Sure. But it's also an example of how in this job we live with various individuals, really. For it can be, for, as you say, for some years, and although the story about them only appears in the paper periodically, nonetheless they're part of the life. And I'm thinking about abuse survivors as well, whose stories don't ever seem to come to a satisfactory end. And although I know this is supposed to be a light-hearted chat, but nonetheless, it's an example of how important people can be in our news coverage. It's not just about church reports and statistics and things. Adam, how about you?
Just under a month ago, I attended the publication of the Church of England's first major report on Jewish-Christian relations in its history, which is a positive news story because despite the rise of anti-Semitism again across the globe, it's really important that the Church says sorry for its role in anti-Judaism, which then became anti-Semitism, but also offered a very modern and helpful guide to clergy and to lay people in how their depictions of the Jewish people, Judaism as a faith, and also Israel as a concept and also as a country can kind of be very can almost touch on anti-Judaism and anti-Semitism without really realising it. There are hymns referenced in the report that can be construed as having anti-Jewish messages, and also passages of the Bible and the way that we see even Jesus' death, and it's all very crucial and very important. I think it's a good news story in that the Church is trying to, in a very good way, apologise for the past, and in an important way. It's not just a virtue signalling thing. It's an important thing, but also move forwards.
But that's one of the pleasures of the job, is to report good work that takes place in the Church. And I mean, I did read the report, and one of the pleasures was the quite meticulous care they took over relations with another faith. I mean, how much of a concession do you make to the beliefs of the other people while holding on to your own, and how do you mesh the two? And it acknowledged honestly that you can't map one onto the other, or you can't ignore various bits of your own faith which has a certain exclusivity about it. So it was really quite intelligent report. So that was good. I thought you were going to talk about sport, because Adam is our sports correspondent, and particularly the Church Times Cricket Cup. This time, we at the start of the year, and especially given that it's 25 years since we've had women priests, we did put a big effort into persuading the various teams, the diocesan teams, to include women in their sides. With some success.
Some teams were better. It's interesting, the teams that there's a balance between taking it very seriously and wanting to win, and also the spirit of the competition, which, as you've said, this year was kind of more about trying to get all kinds of different people involved. Sure. Just this week actually, the London who won the Cricket Cup were hosted an event by the Bishop of London to celebrate the win. She's warned them that Exeter might be coming for their title next year, so we'll have to wait and see for that. Yeah.
This is good, and it was a pleasure to go to Rome with the Archbishop of Canterbury's cricket team in the early summer, and with 2 women players there. So that was a plus.
Early this year, I really enjoyed co-presenting the Theology Slam, which is the first time that we've run the competition. We're asking for young theologians to submit a short talk on a sort of contemporary topic and then present it for our judges. We had an all-female final. And we had a really worthy winner in Hannah Malcolm, who's subsequently gone on to train for ordination and also is editing a sort of collection of essays exploring lament and climate change, which I think is a really lovely outcome of the event. And just a really good opportunity, I think, sometimes a kind of a background conversation amongst our readers about the place of theology in the church, whether it's still highly valued, what we mean when we use the word theology, whether it's been downgraded or sidelined. And I think this was a really important event to show that there are young Christians who are very engaged in theological discourse and can also map it onto the things that broader society is talking about. And I think sometimes we talk about whether the church still has a place in the public square and things to say, and whether it speaks into sort of big moral questions of the day. And I thought that was a really encouraging example to show that there is a younger generation who are doing that work.
The medium was it was video. It went online. It's people can see it online already, and still. So it's theology is easily transferred into different mediums, and that was really good. It's one of the things that the Church Times has been involved in. We do the annual TAP fund, the Train a Priest fund. The total was better this year than last year. 63,000 was given by readers. We had the 21 for 21 awards at Lambeth, which was the 7 young people, young leaders from the 3 main Abrahamic faiths were identified and were not given an award for any particular thing, but just for being recognised leaders in their field at a young age. We had another Green Health Conference. We were part of the Hymn Section of Modern group that put together the Festival of Preaching. So we were quite active on other fronts as well. So if there's no news out there, we make it ourselves. I think that's probably enough for now. But I just thought it was an opportunity to run through some of the more cheerful bits of the news, because at the year end one tends to remember some of the things that weren't so good, which are still unfolding even as we speak. So thank you.